So we're back to problem 1-2, set A for the Steve Kojima attorney at law. Friday we did all of those transactions on that supplemental kind of funny fold out page, and then that's where we're going to use all the information. Can you see where if you did those transactions wrong, these would all be wrong? Yeah, so that's huge. Income statement. Snapshot or over length of time? Over length of time. What two areas are we concerned with when it comes to the income statement? Money in, or what's called, starts with R, revenue, minus money out, expenses, and what do we hope for? A net income or loss. What would generate a net income? More revenue. Thank you, Hannah. Because we're seeing mostly net income, you kind of can tell that that's the way the book steers. But just be ready in case it's a net loss. Let's put some headings in first. As far as the number of lines they give you, can you tell that they're giving you more lines than you need? So where it says revenues, that's where we're going to, these are considered headings. Okay, the reason, and you have the headings in your book, correct? In your workbook, they're there. All right, so we only see one service revenue. How do you know how many there's going to be? Well, they'd tell you, okay? There's only one. Why are we not writing total revenue? Why are we not putting a total under revenue? There's only one. Yep. I worked with Morgan a little bit because she knew she was going to be gone right on the front end of our class today. She's like, Mrs. Mars, how do I know how many expenses there are? Well, look in that column. How many times did we subtract out for expenses? And do you remember when I was doing this? When I was writing next to them? That's why. Okay, I was doing this, you know, salaries, rent, advertising, and utilities because I knew I'd probably forget what those were. And so that's why I put them there. You basically are looking at your expense column anytime there's a minus and grabbing from there. Why do we have total expenses now when we didn't before? Because there's more than one. As far as numbers, let's take it step by step. We have service revenue. Do you have two columns? Why are we going to stick that 7,500 way over on the right? It is kind of like its own total. We don't need to do any math with it. Are we going to see a single rule at this point? No. We've got our 4 sets of expenses. Why now are we putting those in the left column? There's math involved. We are separating that out so then we can say total expenses, and we're going to stick that back over in the right column. Where am I getting all of these numbers from? The big, yes, the transactions. Thank you, Sydney. That big double page. You are welcome to just sit and look at my numbers, but in a minute you're going to have to gather your own numbers. Whoa, I'm seeing some lines here. What do these single lines mean? Who can explain that? What does a single rule mean? What's above it? Math. I'm going to take 25 plus 9 plus 4 plus 270. And if you really want to just put a plus sign in there just to see that visual math, great. Okay. Out here, I'll get to these in a minute, but I read your question. The transactions, it was way down at the bottom. It was a minus 270. It kind of came at us at the bottom. Yeah. That's why I cannot stress enough. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the other page. I can't stress enough the importance of just making a note. Because even the first time I did this problem, I didn't put the minus 270. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. As I'm cross-referencing with my answer key, it wasn't working, and then I saw this little ripper down here. Okay. It's really easy to forget that. All right, just taking a look. Here's our revenue. Here are the expenses. Are revenue greater than expenses? Yes. So we know that we're going to have a net income of $3,430. And we're done with our math, so we're going to double rule that. Some kids ask, do I need to double rule across both columns? You can tell the answer key didn't want that, but I'm okay with either option. Out of everything we see on this income statement, what number is going to get shuffled somewhere else? You guys remember? One of these numbers is going to get shuffled elsewhere. This total right here is actually going to be used on the next financial statement. Do you have that same thing on the same page? Good. Before I leave the income statement, what questions do you have? Okay, let's give the statement of owner's equity or owner's equity statement a whirl here. Like an income statement, it talks about a time, a month ended, okay? Owner's capital as of August 1st. In the chapter, mid-chapter, mid-lecture, we'd always start with a 0. Why do we have 8,800 on this one? Where are we getting that number? Back to what Sydney said earlier, the transactions. An owner's equity statement is basically the expanded accounting equation. With two of the players of the accounting equation masked. Okay. Tell me, did the owner make additional investments in the business? How would you know if he did or not? Or, excuse me, she, this is Sue. You'd look in the capital column, and was it the 8,800 all the way down? So they made no additional investments. When I was working through this with Morgan, I said on the next line, what's the next line on your workbook? What line number after? Okay, I want you on line 2 to write plus investments and put 0. Plus investments. The answer key omitted that, which I totally get why. Why would we list something that has a 0 balance? But from a learning perspective, I want you to put plus investments, so if you ever have them, you're acclimated to doing that. What else do we add to the owner's capital? What does the owner get to keep? The owner gets to keep investments and keep net income. So also add net income. I know it seems kind of funny to put add investments with 0, but I wanted you to put that visual down. Yes. It appears that everything's over in the right, but if you're liking using the left and right, that's okay too. The book gets a little bit scattered that way. Good question. You're going to see a single rule. And on the next line, you're going to add those 2 or 3, in your case, up. So basically this top half is all the adding from the expanded accounting equation, plus investments, plus net income, which we know is actually revenue minus expenses. So that kind of is the wham bam, takes care of two of the accounting equation, expanded accounting equation players. What are we subtracting from the accounting equation? He does not get to keep, or in this case, she does not get to keep her drawings. That lowers her overall worth. And what we're trying to figure out here is what she's worth. I see a single rule again. So up here the math was a plus, down here the math was a minus. She's worth $11,530. My question is when? You can see that it's August 31st. Why? Because it's a month. It's the month of August. I believe in the practice test that you'll do tonight, it's a year. You're going to look at that and go, okay, a month for the month of August, August 1 to August 31. Okay, if it's a year, it's January 1 to December 31. We're done with our math. The double rule. Are we going to use a number? We use this net income number transferred down. Are we going to use any of these numbers to transfer to the next financial statement? I'll be sad for you if you put the beginning capital on the test, because that's not accurate. You're going to know if you did it wrong because ALLO's not going to work. In the practice test you do tonight, there's actually two separate problems. You do this for one problem, and then you do something else for a different problem. All right, let's do the balance sheet. Keeping in mind that this $11,530 will get transferred. You guys have the heading assets, liabilities, and owner's equity in? Okay. Remember, all this is assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity vertical instead of horizontal. Okay. I think you have more lines than you need again, correct? So was cash line 1 or line 2 in your? So this is line 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that correct? Okay. I want to just stop after. Let's just do the assets first because that's a big divider because we're double ruling. Okay, where are we getting all of these totals? From the, say it again, Sydney said it earlier, transactions, okay? Are there two columns again? You can use exclusively left or right, or if you want to do a combination of both. Do you remember seeing 16,800 way back when the two equaled? This is a nice way to double check your math. Did you get the remind that I sent? Was that helpful? So when we do the liabilities and owner's equity, what number are we shooting for? Assets equal the two liabilities, owner's equity added up. I'm going to ask kind of the obvious question, but why do we write total assets down here? Because there's more than one. They give you more lines, don't they, than you need? That's really hard because you're trying to learn this and then you're kind of nervous that, did I forget something? You didn't. So just remember, like, these headings go together. When I see total assets, it's got an asset head, total asset heading. We've got this one that we're shooting for down here, okay? Different this time is that we had two liabilities. How do we know that? There's those two columns. One said note payable, one said account payable. Do you guys remember the difference? Why something would be a note versus account payable? If you flip them, you got it spot on. Accounts is more like, I'm not going to pay my advertising bill to the newspaper until next month. Versus if I go get a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 note from a bank, that's going to take me maybe a year or two to pay off. Notes payable is long-term, accounts payable is more of a short-term loan. Now we have more than one, don't we? So before I can move on to owner's equity, what do I need to do? So you see some math involved. Owner's equity is always going to be just the one number that you transferred from somewhere else. Okay? But in the accounting equation, it's liabilities plus owner's equity. So we're going to take the total liabilities plus that total owner's equity to get at our bottom number. And this is where they need to equal. Accounting is black and white. It's either right or wrong. And this is where when you do it on the test, if they don't equal, you got to start backtracking. Can I give you a big suggestion and a point saver on the test? You're given 65 minutes. If you are struggling and you're seeing the time fade and you can't get them to equal, you know they should equal, so it's like a free point. Even if you can't get them to equal, just stick that number in, and at least you're getting a point for putting the right answer, even though the math above. There'll probably be some errors, but you're saving yourself at least 1 point. You know assets need to equal liabilities and owner's equity. If you can't get it there, just put the number there. And sometimes students will write, I couldn't get it to add up, but I know that that's the right number because the assets tell me it is. You know what I mean? Save yourself at least 1 point. And 1 point you might say, I'm not horsing around with that. Can make or break a grade bump. And of course, don't forget to double rule. Again, another point off if you don't do your rulings. So what do you think? You ready to tackle this on your own? It's actually the perfect amount of time because then I can show you the right answers at the end. Okay, this is what I messaged you. This is what you did at home. Remember, you just did the transaction part. If some of you were brave and wanted to try all the other stuff, great. But this is all I was asking, and this is the number I sent you via Remind. Do you think I'll send you some more numbers for checkpoints tonight? Did everybody get the Remind? Did some of you get 2 reminds? It looked like some of you were in my system twice, but it's all right. So Peter Nimmer, the veterinarian. I'm going to, from an analytical standpoint, just talk about his money story a bit. When I see his assets, they're actually almost doubled of what the law firm lady was. He's got a nice amount of cash. He has quite a bit of customers that owe him money. Supplies and equipment look good, but wow, he owes a lot of money to both long-term payables and short-term payables. Did he have additional investments at all? I see that 13.7 all the way down, so no additional investments. I still would like you to put that plus investments in 0 on your owner's equity statement, okay? But owner's capital is plus, minus the drawings, minus, I'm going to pop over here, minus expenses. Remembering those will always show a negative balance because it's offsetting what's owned or what money in. And then here's our plus revenue. So I'm showing you that as a checkpoint. Hopefully your numbers were correct. Here's where you'd want to correct them and work backwards because you need these correct totals to bring your financial statements accuracy. I'm going to pause my recording. I'm going to flip all the lights on. I would like you to work through these. You should be able to do it in double the time, or excuse me, half the time that it took me to go through set A, because you're getting it. Please consult with your neighbor. Can we do a checkpoint in 20 minutes so I can show you the answers? If you finish sooner than 20 minutes, start your practice exam. I'll get some lights on because I know it's hard to do this with the dim lighting.